it says here, use an area model to complete each multiplication problem. I want to focus specifically on A. So how would I go ahead and multiply this out? I have an area model and my factor set up, but what do I do first? Go ahead. Multiply which ones? 2 and 3, and that gives me 6x squared. All right, so we all know how this works, right? So we multiply the numbers on the outside to get the number on the inside. Yes? We okay with that? Okay. All right, what is the product of -5 and 2x? -10x. What is the product of 4 and 3x? 12x. What is the product of -5 and 4? -20. So we're going to write this out. This is 6x squared plus 12x minus 10x minus 20. Is that my final answer? What do I need to do? Combine like terms. 6x squared plus 2x minus 20. That is the solution. Okay. I want to skip B and C. Here, find some empty space. I want you to do the following. Cross these out. We don't want to do them. They're useless. We already know what 36 divided by 4 is. You have a remainder of 1. It's 1/4. Okay. I want to try this out. Draw an area model. 2 by 2. You are going to do the following. Okay, so on the side, write x plus 3. Let me think of some numbers here. And let me think of some numbers here. Okay. Okay, so I know this looks funky, but I want you to copy this down. I want you to copy this down. All right, so we have a 2 by 2 box. On the side of one box, we have x plus 3. In the inside of one box, we have 5x squared. On the bottom, we have 13x. Okay. So we know how an area model works, yes? We know that the product of these two multiply to that box right on the inside, yes? Yeah. We know the product of these two multiply to this one. And then we repeat the same. Okay. Now we also know the following. When we combine like terms, isn't this box and this box, don't they add to that term? I know you can't really tell because of the highlighting. So let me highlight more. Okay. So let me show you up here. So listen up. Look up here, please. Everybody look up here. So this box, or not this box, but like this number up here and this number up here multiply to the one inside. Yes. And we do the same for all of them. Now, we also know that the sum of these two boxes will result in this term. Okay, so what I want you to do now is I want you to fill in the rest of this box, all of the boxes, and you can fill it in because you know that x times some number will give you 5x squared. So I want you to figure out what needs to go up here to make that happen. So take a few minutes right now, try it out. Try it out. We're gonna do this first because I can't do 3, 4, 5 terms if you can't do 2 and 2. So let's start with. So give me 1 second. Okay, I'm gonna make this bigger so you guys can see it. So we have x plus 3. We said the inside was 5x squared. And then we also said that the sum of these two boxes here, which I'm going to highlight, this box and this box, adds up to 13. So help me fill this out. Now that you guys had a chance to do it, give me the numbers that need to go above 5x squared. X times what gives you 5x squared? 5x. We then multiply 5x and 3 to get 15x. Now, you can have negative numbers, okay? You can't go from 15 to 13 if you add a bigger number than, but something that's not negative. So what are we missing here? Negative 2x. But how do we get negative 2x? We multiply x and what? Negative 2. And then we get negative 2 times 3, which gives us negative 6. So this is what ends up happening. We have 5x squared plus 13x minus 6. So this is the polynomial that we get from that multiplication. Okay. Now, it is a puzzle. What we are doing is a puzzle. You need to figure out what factors you are missing. You need to figure out what terms you are missing. Once you complete the puzzle, then you're done. But realize how it's hard. Even a 2x2 box is hard. And today you're going to be doing 3x2s, 4x2s. Okay? So I need you guys to make sure that you're actively looking for those missing factors and not just give up if it gets hard. Okay. So now let's go down here. We'll do one example before our break. Okay. So look at this problem down here in the game of Polynomial. So now we have how many boxes? First of all, how many columns do we have? You guys know what a column is? A column is a vertical piece, right? So how many of these vertical rows do we have? Shamar, how many vertical rows do we have? 4. Well, there's 5 total, but really only 4 of them that we're going to count. And how many rows do we have? 2. So we have a 4 column, 2 row, gives us a total of 8 boxes. All right. How do we get 6x to the 4th? 3x times 2x cubed. How do we get negative 7x cubed? How do we get negative 7x cubed? Look at the bottom. In yellow, how do we get negative 7x cubed? Negative 4x cubed and negative 3x cubed, you add those together, you get negative 7x cubed. How do we get 11x squared? 9x squared and 2x squared. How do we get negative 9x? Negative 6x and negative 3x. How do we get 2? 2 or the product of negative 2 and negative 1. Okay. Notice how all of this is a puzzle. So let's see if you guys can do it. Next page. We are going to start with a beginner level and we will do this one together. When we come back, I'll let you guys try out the next one. No, we're not on break yet. This is the last question before break. I'm going to label a few things. I want you guys to label this as well. So here on the left side, we have our factor. We have our factor x minus 4. I want you guys to ignore this box, by the way. Cross it out or ignore it. I don't want people to get confused by what this box here means. That x is not a variable x, it's a multiplication sign, but people get confused. So ignore it. So we have a factor. We have a factor over here as well. We want to figure out these factors. Basically, anything in gray is a factor. So these are the ones that get multiplied together. All right. I'm going to highlight some things out here. All right, I'm highlighting stuff so that we are like preparing ourselves to answer this question. All right, let's begin. So, how do I get 2x to the fourth? What do I multiply? 2x to the third. How do I fill it in the bottom box below 2x to the fourth? What do I multiply? Think about what we're multiplying here. When you have it, raise your hand. I'll ask the question again. How do I get the first blue box in the column? Not 16. Go ahead, Kenneth. That's right. So what do we get? Negative 8x to the third. All right. Notice how the next box, the next column, one box is filled out. That box is 12x squared. How do I get 12x squared? Negative 4 times negative 3x squared. So negative 4 times negative 3 will give you positive 12, and then you have an x squared, so that makes it 12x squared. Now that I know that factor for the column, what goes in the other blue box? Negative 3x to the third. Okay. Let's move columns. Next column, third column. Negative 2x times x is what? Negative 2x squared. What goes underneath negative 2x squared? 8x. All right. You will notice that the next column we have nothing filled in, but we have a 12x. And notice how the purple boxes combine. They add to each other. So we're saying 8x plus another purple box will give you 12x. So what must the other purple box be? 4x. This must be 4x. So how do we get 4x in that box? Well, what do we have on top of the column then? 4. And then 4 and negative 4 is negative 16. And you filled the puzzle up. Now you just got to write it down here. So put them in the correct colors. So first we have 2x to the fourth. The blue box, the first blue box, is for the sum of negative 8 and negative 3, which will be negative 11, x to the third. Then we have 10x squared in the pink box, and then negative 16. Okay. So here I'm going to write out the answer. So I'm going to rewrite it just so you guys can see. Your answer is the statement 2x to the fourth minus 11x to the third plus 10x squared plus 12x minus 16. That is what your solution is. Okay? All right. Before we go on break, there is notation that you must know. Okay? So if you look to the left, you will see the following: multiplication equation and division equation. So there are two possible ways that you will see the problem written out for you. You will see it either as a multiplication equation, where you are multiplying the factors together. So factor times factor equals answer. Or you will see it as a division equation, where you have your answer divided by a factor equals to your other factor. Okay. So if we are filling in the blanks, we already have one factor filled in for us. The other factor, which we just solved, we're going to fill in right there. So that's going to be 2x to the third minus 3x squared minus 2x plus 4. I'm getting all of these numbers from the gray boxes on top of the columns. These are where this is where the numbers are coming from. Okay. Same thing down here. And then for the answer, I'll just put an arrow. Since you already wrote it out, I'll just do that. So you don't have to rewrite the entire polynomial again. Okay. When we come back from break, we will look at intermediate, advanced, and expert levels. Okay. And yes, they will become difficult. All right. We have the following intermediate level. Please follow along. You will notice that one factor is set up for us. We're going to label that. Let's go ahead and label this factor. Also, I want to make you guys aware that we have the answer set up for us as well. So here we have the answer. So since we have the factor and we have the answer, then all that we're trying to figure out is what is the other factor that we're missing. Now, the placement of the boxes is as follows. Let me highlight it for you guys so you can see what we mean. All right. So yellow goes with the yellow box, blue goes with blue, pink with pink, purple with purple. So the very first term in your answer will go in the top left. All right, and that's all you need. You just need one term, and then everything else you can figure out on your own. Like this, watch. So to get 6x to the third, I need to multiply 2x and 3x squared. Then I multiply 5 and 3x squared to get 15x squared. Okay. All right. However, the sum of 15 and another number is equal to 7. So what do I need to take away from 15 to get 7? Negative 8. Good, negative 8x squared. But how do I get negative 8x squared? By multiplying 2x with negative 4x. Negative 4x and 5 will give me negative 20x. And I need to add what to negative 20 to get negative 16? Positive 4x. Very good. How do I get 4x? 2x times what? 2. And that gives me 10. Okay. So we have found our second factor, which is 3x squared minus 4x plus 2. So we can write that stuff down here, over here. So this is one factor times another factor. So over here I'm going to write 3x squared minus 4x plus 2 equal to our answer, which is 6x cubed plus 7x squared minus 16x plus 10. That's how we do multiplication. So multiplication is a factor times a factor equals your answer. Division is the opposite. Answer divided by one factor equals your second factor. So here we have A for answer. Here we have F for your first factor. And your answer will be the second factor, 3x squared minus 4x plus 2. Try the advanced level with your team. We will do the expert level together. So there's two ways to do this. There's long division way and there's area model way. Personally, I think area model is easier, but if we're struggling too much with area model, then I will show you how to do it long division way. And I think that method is a little bit better because you guys know how to do long division from elementary school. So we'll see how it goes. Let's look at this one, see what we came up with. So when you have your answer, you want to write it like this. You want to write your answer underneath each column so you know what each column is supposed to add to. So down here I'm going to write x to the fourth. Here I'm going to write 2x to the third. Here I'm going to write x squared. Here I'm going to write 5x. And under the last column I'm going to write negative 1. All right, that's just for me to know what things are going to add to what. So we talked about the following. We said top left box is for the leading term. And then we have the sum of the boxes that add up diagonally. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go through this one. X times what gives you x to the fourth? That has to be x to the third. 3 times x to the third is 3x to the third. 3x to the third plus negative x to the third is going to give you 2x to the third. So this must be negative x squared. 3 times negative x squared is negative 3x squared. To get negative 3x squared to x squared, you have to add 4x squared. So this must be 4x. 4x and 3 is 12x. To get 5x, you have to subtract 7. So this has to be negative 7. And negative 7 and 3 make negative 21. Now here's the thing. Negative 21 is not the same as negative 1. Okay, these are different numbers. So you need to fill in a new box up here. And this box will be for the remainder, or that extra value that you're missing to go from negative 21 to negative 1. For us, that's going to be a remainder of 20, right? Because negative 21 plus 20 gives you negative 1. Okay. So how do you write your answer then? Well, this is how you do it. You're going to write out your factor like this. X to the third minus x squared plus 4x minus 7. And then that remainder of 20, you're going to write it as a fraction. Plus 20 over x plus 3. So you write it as a fraction over the other factor. Okay, so we have x plus 3 times x to the third minus x squared plus 4x minus 7 plus 20 over x plus 3. And that is your factor. That's the other factor. And then your answer you can write down here. X to the fourth plus 2x to the third plus x squared plus 5x minus 1. All right, and then down here we write the same thing. So x to the third minus x squared plus 4x minus 7 plus 20 over x plus 3. Okay, I'm going to help you guys set up the last one, the expert level, and then we'll go over the guided notes, the last section of guided notes, and then you guys will do one last problem. Question? No question. Okay. So let me help you guys set this one up. So for the expert level, just like the one before, you need to write your answer down here. So we have x to the fourth minus 6x to the third. Now, we go from greatest to least, right? So the highest power to the lowest power. What are we missing after x cubed? Oh, thank you. Sorry about that. So we left off right here. So I said you're going to write out your answer down here. So we have x to the fourth followed by negative 6x to the third. And then we jump from x to the third to 18x. So we're actually skipping that x squared, meaning that what ended up happening was the x squared canceled out. So we ended up having a sum of 0x squared, followed by 18x, followed by plus 1. So here's the trick. If you're doing the area model, you cannot leave any column without a number underneath. Okay, everything falls in a certain place, and if it's missing, then you're gonna get confused and you're not gonna be able to do the problem. So let's do the expert level together. I'll just kind of be calling on some people to help me answer some questions. So we have x to the fourth here on the inside. How do I get x to the fourth? Go ahead. X to the third. How do I get the number below x to the fourth? Negative 2 times x to the third is what? Negative 2x to the third. Now I want to fill in this box here in blue. What am I supposed to have in that box there in blue? 4x would not get me negative 6x. Unless it's what? Positive or negative? Negative. So it has to be negative 4x to the third. All right. How do I get negative 4x to the third? I multiply x with what? Negative 4x to the second. And negative 4x to the second and negative 2 multiply to what? 8x to the second. But the x to the second cancels out. So how do I get 8x to the second to cancel out? I need to add 8 with what? With negative 8. So that's negative 8x to the second. To get a product of negative 8x to the second, I need to multiply x with what? Negative 8x. What's the product of negative 8x and 2, negative 2? Positive 16x. How do I get 16x to add up to 18x? What do I add? Not 2x, just 2. So it's going to be 2x. And then 2 and negative 2 multiply to negative 4. I'm going to go and start coloring now. What are we missing? How do we go from negative 4 to positive 1? We add 5, so we have a remainder of 5. So we have everything filled out, including our remainder. A remainder of 5 we must have to go from negative 4 to positive 1. So how are we going to write our answer? We're going to do it like this. You're going to copy your factor down. So x minus 2 times x to the third minus 4x squared minus 8x plus 2 plus your remainder of 5 over the other factor. The other factor is x minus 2. And all of that is going to equal your answer, which is x to the fourth minus 6x to the third plus 18x plus 1. All right. So for a multiplication equation, you write it as factor times your other factor equals your final answer. Division is final answer divided by one factor equals the other factor. Okay. Are there any questions that I can answer for this one? Okay. We're going to finish with one more section of guided notes. It's just one problem that I'm going to show you. And then the last one is going to be for you guys to do. If there's enough time, then hopefully you'll finish it in class. If not, you can finish it later. So let's take a look at the guided notes. Now, notice how this problem is set up. Is there an area model set up for us already? No. Now, listen to what I'm going to say. On a test or on a quiz, we will not set up the area model for you. You must set the area model up yourself. Okay? So this right here is how you will see the question on your exam with no area model. You have to determine the area model, and it's real simple the way to do that. Because the number of columns for your area model is determined by the biggest exponent in the equation. Look at the first equation, 6x to the third plus 11x squared minus 12x minus 1. What is the biggest exponent in that statement? 3. So you need an area model with 3 columns. How do you determine the number of rows? You look at your factor. How many terms are in your factor? We're dividing by 3x plus 1. How many terms is that? 3x plus 1 is how many terms? 3x is one term, plus 1 is your second term. That's 2 terms. So your area model will look like this. It's a 3 by 2, 3 columns, 2 rows. Three columns, 2 rows, like that. Take your factor, write it on the side. 3x plus 1. Next, take your answer and write it down here. So I'm going to go 6x to the third power plus 11x squared minus 12x minus 1. Remember that there must be a number underneath each column. If you are missing a number, fill it in with a 0. Okay. Let's fill this in. So here we have a 6x to the third. All right, let's go ahead and start talking about the factors here. To get 3x to equal 6x to the third, I multiply 3x with what? 2x squared. That's going to give me 2x squared down here. To get 11x squared, I add 2x squared with what? 9x squared. For 3x to equal 9x squared, I multiply 3x with 3x. Three x times 1 is 3x. To go from 3x to negative 12x, I add, or in this case, I subtract how much from 3x? How much? Negative 15. How do I get negative 15x? What do I multiply with 3x? Negative 5. What's negative 5 times 1? Negative 5. And what is my remainder going to be? To go from negative 5 to negative 1, I have to add 4. Let me highlight so you guys can see. So we're done. But here's the thing. We got to write it both as a multiplication and as a division. So this is where we're going to write that, all right? Let's start with multiplication. So multiplication. Remember that as multiplication, it's factor times factor equals answer. F times F equals ANS. ANS means answer. So factor times factor equals answer. So one factor is 3x plus 1. Your second factor, which we just found, is 2x squared plus 3x minus 5 plus 4 over 3x plus 1, where 4 over 3x plus 1 is your remainder. So right here you have a factor, you have another factor. We got to set this equal to our answer. So all of this is going to equal the following. 6x to the third plus 11x squared minus 12x minus 1. Okay. So that right there is how we write it as a multiplication statement. A factor times a factor equals your answer. Finish writing this down, and I'm going to show you how to write it as a division statement. Ready? So the last thing we'll do before we leave today, because we're running out of time. So now let's do it as a division statement. So as a division statement, it's your answer over a factor equal to your other factor. So our answer we said was 6x to the third plus 11x squared minus 12x minus 1. We're going to divide this by the factor 3x plus 1. And our final answer will be the other factor that we solved for. So 2x squared plus 3x minus 5 plus 4 over 3x plus 1. So I will leave that there for you guys. You copy down. Please do not clean up until you have this written out. Thank you.